Hello, welcome to the Retroprogressive Yoga Institute. My name is Swami Omkarananda. I am a disciple of Prabhuji, and in these classes I share from the book written by him called Tantra, Liberation in the Word. We are starting in this class studying the first section of the book that is called the Tantric Vision. In the first chapter, called The Essence of the Tantric Vision, Prabhuji writes as follows. Many consider Tantra to be a rebellion against society or institutionalized religion. However, Tantra is not intended in treating the symptoms. Instead, it focuses on the root cause of the disease, human conditioning. So, human conditioning is the disease. Society and institutionalized religion are the symptoms. So let's analyze this sentence. What is human conditioning? By the definition, human condition is the process of training or accustoming a person or animal to behave in a certain way or to accept certain circumstances. Operant conditioning is a method of learning that uses rewards and punishments to modify behavior. So this is how Prabhuji presented. We have a disease and we have the symptoms. Now, society and religiosity are just the symptoms of the real root cause, which is human conditioning. Tantra is not a rebellion, it's not intended to go against the society, but is a cure to the disease. So the Tantra came as what is the relationship between conditioning and the society, conditioning and religiosity. So if conditioning we define as a method to train an animal or a human animal in order to behave in a certain way, so the method is by punishing and rewarding. So if we look at society, we have a very clear system of punishment and rewards. And religiosity, which is the modified religion in its source is for liberation, for going beyond the human conditioning. But when religion is put in the service of the system of society, which is what we observe today, we find that the religion acquires the same methodology of society and together join forces in punishing and rewarding. Society on the social level, on the material level, on the economical level, and religion on the spiritual level. So instead of becoming free individuals, reflecting the endless creativity of the divinity that moves us, that operates in us, we are becoming enslaved in the system of punishments and rewards. And what Tantra does is just tries to focus and to understand that society is not outside. There is no point to rebel against society because the real damage is inside. The real disease is the ego, is the human conditioning. And because we were grown into this educational system of punishments and rewards, of competition, of animosity, of rewarding the best, of the survival of the fittest, and all this mentality of competition. So this is how we see it reflected now in societies where we see wars between countries, we see conflict between family members, and we see internal conflict in the human being. So what Tantra says is that let's internalize, let's leave society aside, let's leave religion aside, let's check inwards. Now, more than anything, the retroprogressive path is a path of understanding that society, it's in me, it's me actually, it's what I get identify with, and that's why the suffering of feeling that we are enslaved and in a cage of our own conditioning. And this is the source of our suffering. But there is a way, there is a cure. And this is what all this path tries to address. But if we don't differentiate what are the root causes of the human suffering and what are the just conditioning, we will be going against the wrong reasons. Now, society is just a reflection. Religiosity is just a reflection. But we are conditioning the deepest level. We are born free spirits without all these mental definitions. And as we go into the educational system, we learn what we need to do in order to survive. And all our instinctive level is operating by this system of punishments and rewards. And this is how we lose our ability to discriminate, and we go by the learned, the gender standards. Now, that's so temporal. In one society can be one set of standards that doesn't fit the other society. So these standards are really temporal and really human. But what we try to do by this process of knowing ourselves, our true nature, is to find what is not changing, what is the absolute truth, what is eternal in me, what is eternally truth. And this is a process, because if we stay in the level of what were the acquired values, so we might be good citizens, we might be good religious person, and this is what we are trained to do. After all this conditioning is when you have a herd of sheep, this is what you want, that they will have a very clear behavior, expected behavior, and they will know what brings them rewards and what brings them punishment. And in this way, you are totally in control of your animals. So same thing happened with the society that is trying to get totally in control of the members of society. Now, it is the deep belief and trust of the retroprogressive that if we are everyone loyal to his true nature, there will not be need for all these punishments and rewards, because the reason that we need is our disconnection from our true discrimination. And we are an expression of divinity, and by being an expression of divinity, we know what is right and what is wrong. So all these acquired rules and external influences with different interests in mind is what, after all, creating us this conception of separation, everyone to himself and against others, and this identification with me as someone resided inside this particular body. And then we live a life of trying to defend and protect me, myself, and whatever is related to what I am identified with, and to defend from other sources. And this is the chaos that we see in the human animal. We see that they don't know how to live. They don't know what to do, and at the end, they even forget what we are here to do. So all the process of Tantra is a remembrance, is addressing the source and trying to bring our awareness to this conditioning. Now, how the Tantra does it? So there are many ways that it does it, and in this class we will just mention this briefly, and in the following classes we will go deeper into these topics. How Tantra treats the disease. It converts sin in virtue, the profane into the sacred, matter into spirit, desires or Bhoga into yoga or union, repression into sublimation, and human into divine. Let's say a few words about each. In the book you can read much more, and in the following classes we will go deeper. Sin and virtue. this is one of the things that the Tantra identified, that we have a very conflicted relationship between what we consider sin and what we consider virtue. Of course, Tantra is not justifying criminal behaviors. That's out of the question. But what we get to consider sin is not after being loyal and attentive to our own wisdom, but as defined, externalized. And different societies and different time define sin and virtue in different ways. Now we become slaves of the running after virtue and running away from sin, because the conditioning, the system of learning of punishments and rewards make us blind and deaf to our own inner intuition. And in this way we try to avoid sin. Now what is sin? Is usually our attractions, things that we are attracted to. So many times we are at conflict, because what is sin? Why even we need to define sin? Because we are attracted to it. We are naturally attracted to what we consider sin. If it was so repulsive for us, so no need even to define it as sin. No, I don't want. Let's say it's a sin to, I don't know, to jump from a cliff. Okay, I that's okay. I will never be tempted to jump from a cliff. So you can define it as sin. I am fine. It didn't even raise to my mind. But why we define it to sin? Because we are attracted to it. So we need to say, no, this is forbidden. And then what happened is that we are in conflict. We are attractive and we try to withhold ourselves from this tendency. Now we might succeed and we have a strong willpower, and we may fail. And when we fail, it comes all the consequences of feeling a sinner, having guilt feelings, being ashamed, hiding, lying, and trying to, at least if I sin, to be private about it, not to be considered sinner by others, and all the human complex psychology that comes with these definitions, these egoic definitions of sin and virtue. So what Tantra says is that how could you cure this? I mean, you are totally sick. You are a terminal patient with all this conditioning. You even don't know what is right and wrong, because you are so accustomed to get these definitions from the outer world. The way that it does it, it analyzes what is sin truly and what is virtue. So there is no other way to understand it unless we observe ourselves. This is other conditioning. We are so accustomed to be outwards in our attention, to observe others, because this is a quality of the mind, to be always on the defense. And one of the fears is to be rejected by our social group. This is like human animals are very dependent on the social acceptance, and they are very dependent on affection. This is one of the basic needs to grow. So the punishment is stronger than us, and we get outwards looking for a definition of sin and virtue instead of being loyal to our divine nature, that we know exactly what is sin and what is virtue. So the Tantra confuses us, said, okay, if you want to try the disease, let's start deleting these confusing terms. We have this chapter in the book that it says the non-dual polarity, the non-dual polarity of Shiva and Shakti. Non-dual polarity. Sins and virtue are non-dual, they're a polarity, but what the Tantra does, it merges them. It merges and it confused. So the tantric practices started by experimenting and exploring all the things that are considered sinful. Let's go for the sinful. Why? Because we are so attracted anyways to the sinful. So maybe just by experiencing with it, we will get rid of our attraction to it. So it will become natural for us not to sin. Our sattvic nature, our higher nature will shine, maybe if we don't conditioning to be so afraid of the sin. And this is how they broke the rules of the society. Now, it was not, as Prabhuji says in this first sentence of the chapter, this was not in order to reveal society and to create a different social order. No, society can keep going its way, but I don't need to comply with this. And even I can comply for the social order, but nobody can take from you your inner choices, your inner awareness. And Prabhuji says all the slavery is rooted in our lack of awareness. And awareness is not something we need to acquire or we need to get from any external sources. It's the most fundamental quality. It's us, Prabhuji says. We are awareness. We are the one who is aware of all this happening. So it's just a retroprogressive path, just to come back, progress backwards, progress to the source of what you are. Profane and sacred. So the Tantra has a practice that takes 5 elements, and we will study this in depth, that are considered controversial, profane, and it ritualized them. It ritualized them, making them sacred offerings to the God. What can I offer you rather than my sinful nature? That's what I can offer to you. And the only way to purify is not to restrain. It's not going to help. This is what this path says. It's not because basically the willpower, your willpower will be weak against your attraction. And in the moment of weakness, you will fall into this attraction. So let's, instead of trying to go against this power, let's ritualize them. This practice of the 5 elements of Tantra, it's called Pancha-ma-kara. Pancha is 5, and Ma, it's the 5 practices that start with the letter M. And according to the level of the practitioner, it will be practiced in different ways. So these are the 5 practices of Tantra. Madhya, which is wine. Mamsa, which is meat. Matsya, which is fish. Mudra, which is wheat germ. And Maithuna, which is copulation. So wine, intoxication. Mudra, it says that it was a kind of hallucination, a kind of drug. Maithuna, copulation. Fish, all those are sinful, they are prohibited in the Vedic context from which the Tantra arose. But it says, instead of running away from these things, let's explore them. Let's see what they make in us. So when my understanding will be deep, I will not be attracted to it. I will know it already. My attraction is because of my curiosity. And I need to understand what that makes in me. And in order to know it, Tantra was never a path of hedonism, of saying, go drunk and go get high and libertinage in the sexual behavior. No, it was never. It was a path. It is a path for liberation, but it understands that repressing these tendencies, it's not a path of liberation, but it makes us more enslaved of our human conditioning. So it takes all these elements and ritualizes them in a controlled environment in which they make them divine, sacred. So this we will study in depth in the following classes. Matter and spirit. Tantra considers everything divine. Matter is a dynamic expression of the one Shiva consciousness, is Shakti, is the immanent aspect of the divine. So in this unification of these polarities, it stops this conflict that I am getting attracted to the matter, which is lower, which is profane, and I am not attractive enough to the spirit, and I am a material person, and I'm not. Tantra says you are divine no matter what you do. Everything here is divine. You can ignore, you can forget, or you can remember if you wish. This is the freedom. The consciousness is freedom by nature, so you're free to forget. It's also your right. The path of Tantra is a path of remembrance of your divine nature, but also of realization that there is nothing that can be outside of the divine, so there is nothing can be considered material. It turns desires, Bhoga, into yoga. So we will dedicate a class to this topic. But Bhoga is our desires, and we need to understand them. But not only to understand them, but to turn them into the way of unification. By the orthodoxy, the desires needs to be repressed because we are low, because we are attracted to the material and the lower nature, so we need to repress our desires and behave according to the definition of punishment and reward of the religiosity. This path says, let's use the power of desire. They are powerful because this is the force behind our will to act. So let's go to the source of this will to act, because you cannot move without a will. But let's turn them into the way to unite. It's a very profound topic, and we will speak further in the future. It turns repression into sublimation. So it's important to clarify that the Tantra has nothing to do with the Kama Sutra, which is a different type of literature in the Vedic background, which aims to maximize Kama, which is desires. The path of Tantra is a path of moksha, of liberation. So it is exploring with the desires, and it's especially with the sexual attraction. But instead of repressing it or maximize the enjoyment like the path of Kama suggests, is a path to use this powerful energy for liberation. Because if you go to the source of this energy, it's a source that aims for unity, for unification. That's why it's so powerful, because it's the desire of Shakti to unite with Shiva. It's the very core. Now, when we repress, we also get more sick and obsessed over this, and we waste this energy. So this path suggests to sublimate it, and we will go further into this topic in the following classes. Finally, human and divine. Is there such division between human? We are small, you are big. We are here, you are there. We are in ignorance, you are all knowing. We are localized, you are omnipresent. The Tantra questions all this, that we get them as axiomas from the religiosity and religious education. What is to be human? Is an invitation to inquire what in me is human, what in me is really my decisions, from where I came, where I go. It's the retroprogressive yoga is to question all these convictions and conditionings, because we get ready answers when we get conditioned. And not only that, we don't know the answers, but we learn the answers, and when we say the right answer, we get rewarded, and when we say the wrong one, we get punished. So we kind of are taint animals that don't know how to think for themselves. So the real benefit of these books is even start thinking, start looking for your own answers. And the ones who did it and awoke and could open their eyes and see, says that everything is divine. You are not independent or separated from the divine. And all the reason of your suffering is because you feel separated, and you are in forgetfulness. So the attempt and the effort is just to remember. In order to understand further what is the human conditioning, we need to observe the mental functioning. That is the root source of our behavior. And we see that the human animal has a very special kind of mind. So because we can tame animals and make them behave as we wish by providing them rewards and punishments. But even if they're wild animals, they will be very attentive to their nature, to their instinct, what is right and wrong, in their own parameters of what nature dictates. But the human animal is very unique. It's completely disconnected from what is right and wrong. It needs to be trained and educated. And this disconnection makes us very chaotic. We kind of lose our own sense of what we should do. We don't remember what is our purpose, what is our meaning. So the Tantra tries to remedy the disease. What is the cause that causes chaotic societies and conflicted relationships and suffering, after all? Why we cannot have these quiet eyes of the animals that no matter what, they look in tune, in harmony, what they do what they should do, and we are lost and confused. So what is the human mind, how it functions? That's one of the topics, and it's the retroprogressive yoga invests a lot in understanding better ourselves and the function of our mind. Now for that, the Raja Yoga, which is one of the yogic disciplines that explore the mind and meditation, it gives us a lot of clarity about it. And Prabhuji wrote about it in one of his books. So I'm bringing this in the following way. We will define what are thoughts, in Sanskrit Vrittis, what are tendencies, Vasanas, what are habits, Samskaras, and how all of these create our character or personality. Vrittis or thoughts, they are prana or vital force, energetic waves rising to the surface of the mental lake or Ankarananda, inner organ. What are thoughts? Thoughts are prana. Prana is the vital force. It's like energetic waves. This is how the yogis defined this thousands of years ago, and this is how neuroscience now explores and discovers that actually the way that our brain functions is by electric signals. There are electric signals transmitted from neuron to neuron, and this is how we form thoughts. They are, of course, very far from understanding the whole functioning of how, from an electric energy, we can form an idea or a thought. But the yogis, by their observation, they understood how this complex mechanism of the mind works. So this is really the yogic neuroscience and psychology, what we call the Raja Yoga. Now, it gives us a lot of elements to understand ourselves, because all the purpose of the wisdom revealed by the seers is that they saw directly reality, the functioning of the human body, the source of suffering, and they share what they saw. So in the way that what we can do with what they share is not to learning or to study, but to use it, to see it by ourselves. So in the moment that we get this hint that actually thoughts are energetic waves racing to the lake of the Ankarananda, of the inner organ. The Ankarananda is the mind. I will not go deep into this definition, because it's a course by itself, and it's fascinating how the deep study of the human functioning of the mind. But basically, when we get signals from the outward world we interpret them in certain way. And the Omkarananda, the inner organ, is the functioning that interprets these signals and converts them into ideas and into the reality that we call reality. But actually, they are inner mental waves that are interpreted by the mind. What is really outside, we cannot really know. We get it just in the form of electric waves. And our interpretation, inner interpretation, makes us define it as time, space, colors. This is the function of the mind. Now, also according to the yoga, the mind is the source of the ignorance, is the division between reality and our interpretation of reality. So the way it starts is by Vrittis. But from where this Vrittis comes? Who thinks our thoughts? How they appear? So they go further and explain what are Vasanas. Vasanas are tendencies. Those are desires in their subtle form, seeds ready to manifest themselves as Vrittis. So they explain that the origin of the Vrittis or thoughts are the Vasanas or tendencies. Those are in the subconscious form. Those are deeper. We are not aware of our Vasanas. They are the source of our desires. When the desire arises to the mental lake, it operated from a force behind the surface, underneath the surface, which are our tendencies, our Vasanas. So this we can call the subconscious in modern terminology, or the tendencies that moves us to act. Now, when they already manifest as thoughts, when we are thinking that we have the feeling that we think them, that we think this sort. But if we observe, and this is the invitation of the retroprogressive path, if we observe, we will see that we are not in control of what we think. We are the observer of the thoughts that appear in our field of awareness. But we cannot stop our thoughts if we want, and we cannot provoke our thoughts. It's involuntarily. We have many involuntary systems in our body and in our human existence, but we think that thoughts, it's not one of them. That thoughts are actually voluntary. And if we check further, we will understand that there is something that originates the thoughts. I cannot think what I want to think. I just think. The thoughts arrive. I cannot plan my thoughts. I can ignore them or act upon them or watch them, but I cannot choose them. The thoughts are influenced by what we come in contact, what the senses come in contact, our influence, our external influence, and our subconscious vasanas. Samskaras are habits, subtle impressions engraved into the depths of the mind. They are produced when the Vrittis, reinforced by repetition, reach the deepest regions of the subconscious. Samskaras are even deeper into our subconscious. So this is human conditioning. By repeating a certain response from the surrounding, we'll go and create and reinforce our vasanas and samskaras. If I do something and I get a positive reinforcement, and I repeat it and I get a positive reward, a positive feeling, I engrave this in the disk of the subconscious as a behavior that is conducive to whatever is my goal. And then the samskaras will act unconsciously, raising again the thoughts and the vrittis that ultimately will lead me to act. But we cannot choose the mind, the thoughts, because it's too late. They're already conditioned by the samskara. And this is the big damage that the conditioning can make. Create deeper impressions in our subconscious that force us to act in certain way because of fear of punishment or because of craving of reward. And then we live a life feeling as if we are free, as if we have free choice, when we are helplessly conditioned by the Vasanas and Samskaras. And the Vasanas and Samskaras were reinforced by the rewards and punishments of the human conditioning. So we are really enslaved being. And what this book is called Liberation in the Word is liberation from this enslavement. So all the process of Tantra is to question everything. You know what? Take your Vasanas and Samskaras and let's air them and check if they are really leading me to happiness and harmony and unity, or if they were reinforced by a society where sees division, by religiosity that is not aimed to have happy human beings free, but organized human beings. And the best way to organize a human being is by fear. When they are afraid, they will not do whatever it dictates to them. So the way to get free is just to watch, to analyze, because awareness and light can break this. But if we are following this blindly, no, we are deep and deep and deeper into our vasanas. It's so deep that we call it me, that this is how I am. It's the blindness is such that I'm completely identified with them, and I think that it's my free will, it's my choice. And you see like robotical individuals acting helplessly, every time reacting the same. And not only that, the absurd is that they're feeling free. It's absurd. You know, when someone says, 1 second, I am not free, I'm not happy, my life is leading nowhere, this is what we call a spiritual awakening, where they said, I want to live different, I want an alternative. And this is how Tantra came, as an alternative for those that were fed up of being punished and rewarded and enslaved and wanted to know themselves. Character and personality. The Vasanas and the Samskaras determine our character and personality. Both reflect the power of conditioning from the past to govern our present. How expected we are as individuals, right? When we live with someone, or when we have a friend or a family member, we can almost guess how they will react to certain situations. And when we have a person so conditioned by their reaction, we can manipulate. And once we manipulate, one thing for sure, they will suffer and we will suffer, because this is against our nature. So the past starts to govern our present. We cannot choose anymore now. We are just enslaved by our past. So the personality is the way we are. Not only that, in society, it's a person which is expected is more socially accepted than a person that is unexpected, that we don't know how to make him do something, that he's not free. Imagine you are a boss and you have a worker that is completely not depending, not on you, and not on the salary that you can promise him. So is how you force them to do things that they don't want to do and you want them to do. You cannot deal with a person that is free. It's very difficult, because they will be more loyal to what they want, and what they want, maybe it will be something else. And a person that is free is not a person that is lack of responsibility, that they will just do nothing or go against on purpose. But the deep intention of the retroprogressive is to reconnect you to what you know is right, and not what you were told is right, and not what happened in your past or the past experience, but reconnect to your intelligence. And we see in awakened beings how they're so in harmony. They're like overflowing with love and compassion and understanding of the human conditioning, and empathy for that conditioning, and wisdom, and know how to do and how to connect, and how to keep in tune with the whole. So it's not to go and give freedom to the ego. they get rid of the human conditioning. The ego is the human conditioning, because we have the tendency to think that in the moment that I will be free, I will be able to do whatever I want to do. And this is freedom. This is an egoic freedom. What the aspiration of the liberation that the Tantra suggests is a liberation from the human conditioning that wants to do whatever it wants to do, and a reconnection to our true nature, that there it's the bliss, it's the existence, it's the wisdom. So it's that is the observer. Now, what we have with all this, that is helplessly the way we act, the way we live, and what we need to coexist with our human experience. The way to get liberated from this is, instead of identifying with all these thoughts, vasanas, tendencies, personality, character, is to observe. That's the only medicine that the retroprogressive path suggests for the human conditioning. Just observation. Not practice and not efforts and not study and not books, but observation. I want you to hear this from the words of Prabhuji.
Whenever there is observation without identification with the mental activity, observation stay in its original situation, in its original nature. Meditation is observation without the influence of the mind, without any interference of the mind. And as long as you observe, watch, you can be sure there is no identification. Many of us make efforts to advance in meditation and make efforts to concentrate, to pay attention, to observe, to watch. But the real problem is not lack of awareness, but the identification with the thoughts. That is the real obstacle, because at the moment identification disappears, the observation comes back to his original state. Only then, in the state of observation, the quantum jump can happen. That quantum jump from what you think you are to your reality, or what you really are.
Amazingly, and from a deep state of meditation, Prabhuji guides us to watch. He says, this mistake to try to stop the thoughts, that's not the problem. Meditation many times is considered to a state without thoughts, and then because the thoughts are so involuntarily, and whoever tries to meditate can testify that how you sit and stop thinking is as if we have a muscle that doesn't contract. You cannot stop it, it's just independent. But Prabhuji guides us so compassionately. It's not the problem, the thoughts. The thoughts are there, your breathing is there, the blood is running in your veins, is there. But the identification with the thoughts, you are not these thoughts. You are the awareness that pay attention to these thoughts. So all the guidance of Prabhuji for meditation, which is so central in his path, is to observe whatever raise to the lake of your Antakarana. Observe it, because if you observe it, you will also be aware of the root from where it comes. And once you know the root and put light in the roots, in the Vasanas, Samskaras, these thoughts also will stop arising, and you will have more freedom to choose upon which thoughts you will act. And the path of Tantra is to break this conditioning by making the mind confuse what is right and what is wrong, what is sin and what is virtue, what is human and what is divine, what is material and what is spiritual. So this kind of, let's redefine everything. Let's shake ourselves from all these definitions and dare to look and be brave to decide and to observe from where everything comes. So that is the path that this yogic path suggests. So observation, Prabhuji says, will allow us to make this quantum jump from what we think we are to what we really are. And we can see in Prabhuji as one who lives as who he really is. It's all about beauty, is excitement of being alive and being an expression of the higher will. And everything that comes is an opportunity to observe and to give and to share. So this is the aspiration, and the rishis that Awak says that it's just a state of endless and unconditional bliss. And this is, if we check further, even our thoughts, what they look for, it's just bliss. Everything that moves in this world, even our thoughts, are searching for unity, for reuniting, for bliss and for happiness. So this is the suggestion of the Tantrikas. So we will continue in the following classes going deeper into this topic. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this amazing book and the lectures that you share that allows us to put some light in our human experience and understanding, observe it, and hopefully also getting liberated. Thank you very much. We will meet in the next lecture. Jaya Prabhuji.